Hey guys, did you know that I have a Patreon where you can support me and plus get awesome rewards? Or if you're thinking to yourself, but Julian, I want even more bang for my buck while still supporting you, you can pop over to my Redbubble and check out my awesome store with new designs appearing regularly. But for now, enjoy the video you're about to watch.
Hey everybody, it's me, Julian Greystoke. I'm wearing my strong female character shirt, just because I felt like it. Today we are here with another writing video. You probably have figured out by now that I've been trying to do more writing videos, and if you have any suggestions for ones you would like to see, comment below and let me know. Also check out the playlist just to be sure that I haven't done it already. Today we are going to talk about writing dialogue. Now, as always, I like to warn everyone that I am not the god of writing, and I am just here with tips and tricks that I have learned along the way, and my own skills. So if what I'm talking about doesn't work for you, that's okay, we're all a little bit different. I've always been pretty decent at writing a dialogue. It's just something that comes fairly naturally to me. I can always hear the characters' voices in my head, know what they're thinking, feeling, and would say at any given time. But hopefully maybe you will come to feel a little bit more confident in writing your own character's dialogue after we've had this little chat. So the first point that I have down here is the most important point, and that is to know your characters. To write good dialogue for your characters, you have to know them incredibly well. Not only do you have to know what they would say in any given circumstance, but you have to know how they would say it. You don't want all of your characters to sound exactly the same, with the same vocal tics and inflections, as well as the same attitudes. In my story that I'm working on right now, called The Game, working title, I have a character who is very sassy and very snarky, and a lot of the sassy lines go to him, because that is usually where his head is at. It would be very odd for one of those lines to come out of one of the other characters who is definitely more like the straight man. So make sure that you have a good handle on your characters, and if you need someone to say a line that only they would say, make sure that they're the one that says it. The next point I have in here is the question of, should I write in accents? I used to think it was very cool when I was a young wee thing and I would read a book that had the accents written out. But as I've grown older, I have fallen out of love with writing accents, and I think if you're not careful, it could potentially be insulting to the person whose accent you are attempting to write. One of my favorite authors coming up was Brian Jakes, and he wrote a lot of great accents into his stories, but they were all accents that he was very familiar with in the culture in which he was brought up. So I think it can be okay to write accents into your story, but I would personally advise against it unless you're feeling really confident and are very familiar with that accent. Otherwise, probably just avoid it. If your character has an accent, mention that in your story, and occasionally remind your readers of it if you need to, but don't maybe actually write that accent in. Now we're going to talk about banter. I love banter. I love characters going back and forth, but there is such a thing as too much. I encourage you to write as much banter as you like, especially as you're getting to know your characters. Heck, even let them have a banter scene that's not even going to go in the final story, so you can get a better idea of their voice. Just let them sass. However, in your story, if your characters start to banter and they have wandered well away from the beaten path of what the conversation needed to be about, you're probably going to have to delete some of that dialogue. So keep your banter there, keep it fun, but also try to keep it brief. Banter can be a really great way for your readers to get to know your characters, and I love reading banter, so definitely don't exclude it. Just make sure it doesn't get too out of control. And in general, watch out for tangenting, not just in banter. Watch out for a character who starts talking about one thing and then you, as the writer, especially if you're a pantser like me, might be like, oh yeah, we need to bring that up too, and that character goes off on a tangent. Before you know it, you've got a paragraph of something. I mean, it's surrounded by quotation marks, so it must be dialogue, but what even happened here? If you are drafting and you go off on a tangent, don't beat yourself up too much. You can always go back and fix it later. Let's talk about dialogue tags. You've probably heard sometime in your writing career very contradicting information, like, never use the word said, it's boring, or only use the word said, everything else is unnecessary and weakens your writing. In reality, I feel that it is a combination that is going to get you the most success. Yes, said is a very important dialogue tag to use. It is essentially an invisible word. It just lets the reader know who is saying the piece of dialogue. However, just using said exclusively is not that great in my opinion. I read a book a while back where the author only used said, and it stopped being an invisible word for me. I was noticing it and I was about ready to shoot said. Also remember that you don't always need to use dialogue tags. Something that I like to do in my writing is to have a character say something and then have them do something. So that because the character is doing something, you know that it was them that previously said it. I'll use a really quick example from my story, The Game. It's probably not going to make any sense, but it doesn't matter because you're just listening to what I do with the dialogue. That's what they call us. The VC raised his head, watching the humans. Most of us were born into slavery or taken very young. So you can see I don't feel the need to say, that's what they call us, the VC said as he raised his head. I just go straight on into, that's what they call us, the VC raised his head watching the humans. So you don't always even need a dialogue tag.
Real quick note from the future. I don't use this method myself at all, but I had seen that some authors do recommend it. So if you're struggling with writing dialogue, some authors recommend just writing it all out like it's a play without any dialogue tags or descriptions of what's going on in the scene, and then going back and filling all of that stuff in later. Some people can find that sort of thing too distracting while they're trying to write dialogue. And while I'm not one of those people, I totally recommend giving this strategy a try if you're struggling.
Also watch out for something that I actually have a problem with my own writing, is using things like chuckled or sighed or snorted to mean said. Especially chuckled, I see this in a lot of people's writing, not just mine. But think as you're writing what these lines would actually sound like if the character snorted or chuckled or sighed them. If it doesn't sound like what you're going for, then make sure that you have that be a separate action from the dialogue. And finally, another little tidbit is to watch out for beginning everything with things like well or so. Those are vocal tics that, yes, even I have probably used, possibly even in this video, but they clutter up your writing. It's something that I'm working on getting rid of in my own writing, and it can really strengthen it. You'll find as you go that if you get rid of those wells and so's, it doesn't hurt your dialogue at all, and it clutters it up a lot less. There you go, those are my thoughts on writing dialogue. Do you have any other questions for me? Comment below and let me know. Of course, you all know that I post new videos Mondays and Fridays. All the links to my social media are in the doobly-doo for ease of clicking. And if you liked what you saw here but wish it was higher quality, don't forget that you can support me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month, where I am saving up to get better equipment. And I will see all of you again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye, Julian said.
What's up, everybody? It is shout out time. Time to shout out to my very first patron, Kim. And if you want to be cool like Kim, become a patron over on Patreon.